مساء الخير جميعا السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، مرحبا بكم في مركز شيخ إبراهيم للثقافة والبحوث. هذا المساء مساء مختلف، مساء مميز مع الأمير حسين أغا خان والسيد سيمون بيكولي، يجمعهما حبا عميقا للبحر ومن البحرين. نبدأ بهذه المحاضرة الشيقة التي يتخللها فيلم لمدة 24 دقيقة، ثم نختم ببعض الأسئلة لضيوفنا الكرام. اعذروني، ستكون الندوة باللغة الإنجليزية هذا المساء. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my dear friend, Prince Hussain Aga Khan, and his lovely friend and our friend as well, Simone Piccoli. We are delighted that you are here in Bahrain. The name of our country has two seas within it. So I guess as a nation, as people, we have deep roots to the sea, and you both have incredible stories to share with us this evening. I will start with having a very short introduction about both of your works, and after that we're going to view a 24 minutes film that will be exciting for all of us to listen more to the stories that our guests have to share with us, and then we'll end with some questions and answer. To begin with, I'll present Prince Hussain, who's an avid tropical fish hobbyist since the age of 5 and a reptile and amphibian enthusiast for nearly as long. Hussain Aga Khan developed a keen interest in conservation at a young age and began scuba diving at 14. He started traveling to various parts of the world frequently after secondary school and began taking photographs of the fauna and flora on trips to a Brazilian Amazon in 1996. Multiple photographic expeditions, often organized jointly with scientists and professional photographers, have led him to consult extraordinary archives on marine life. His books and exhibitions shown internationally aim to inspire admiration for wildlife and therefore the desire to protect it. His new book, The Living Sea, was released in May 2022. Simone Piccoli, born in Italy 1974, Simone moved to Egypt in 2003 to follow his dream of becoming a diving instructor and an underwater videographer. After a few years working on the diving industry, he created his own production company and dedicated all his time to filmmaking and capturing the amazing underwater world. He had produced a number of short films of iconic marine life such as sharks, dolphins, humpback whales. Simone runs workshops and lectures to share his knowledge and enthusiasm with experts. Since 2019, his participation in international films contest, Whale Totem, his film This Is Egypt, One Step Ahead, and Beacons of Hope have won numerous awards. And before we start, there is a beautiful saying that Khalil Gibran once mentioned. He said, "There must be something sacred in salt. It's in our tears and in the ocean." And I'm sure the sacred seas also have a lot, and I'm sure you'll share remarkable stories with all of us. Thank you and welcome to Bahrain.
Thank you. Shukran.
So I think we can start, yeah? So, I don't hear the music. Yes, we have. So here we are in Egypt. Actually, we are in Sataya Reef. Sataya Reef is known also as Dolphin Reef. It's located at southeastern of Fury Shoal diving area. We are like 140 kilometers south of Marsalam. This is a 5-kilometer half-moon-shaped reef and is located in the open sea. To reach this place, we need more or less a 2-3 hour cruise from the nearest marina, that is Hamata, in the south of the Red Sea. And it has a huge lagoon with a maximum depth of 8 and 15 minutes. Who has never dreamed of swimming in the surface with this turquoise sea surrounded by dozens of playful dolphins in the wild? Of course, this is the perfect place. Sataya Reef is simply one of the best places in the world to live this unique experience. It's not uncommon to snorkel with boats of 20 or 30 playful dolphins. This show will undoubtedly be one of the most beautiful underwater memories. In the bay in the morning, after spending the whole night in the open sea to hunt squid. The reason why they decided to use this lagoon is because this is a protected area with flat water and safe from their predator that are normally they are the sharks. So during our trip we spotted them in the morning until the afternoon. You can easily understand when they are sleeping because they are swimming slowly in the group without lots of interaction. And if you But the situation, in this situation, you realize how wonderful can be the nature and how lucky we are to have the possibility to take picture and video in this time. Completely different is the situation when they are wake up. They are super playful. They interact with you and you can literally spend an hour just play with them. It's very important to understand that the dolphin is the dolphin that decides to interact with you, not the opposite. If they want to play, they will swim with you and they will play with you. Otherwise, they will swim away and they leave you alone in the water. But don't worry, in case this one will happen, you have just to wait and they will come back again. You don't need to chase them or swimming fast to reach them. I think there is time also some talking with us. You hear the voice underwater when, especially when they are wake up. But I believe that most of the time we don't really understand what they want to communicate it to us. Of course, we are not speaking dolphin, so but sometime will be really nice to understand also what they are saying. No, I'm just waiting the time to get the real one because the last video, yes, like here, there was one of the dolphin. There was literally send me a very huge bubble, and then actually never happened to me before. And I'm not really sure what he was telling to me. Maybe he was saying, look at me and watch how nice and good I am. This is the dolphin. Or on the other side, say, okay, you took already a lot of shots of me, and if you don't run away, maybe I make bigger bubble than the previous one. So we don't really know what happened.
Maybe invite you.
I think much more the second option.
Maybe.
Yeah, then of course now we can move for the second place.
To the dugong.
To the dugong.
Floaty potato.
The floaty potato, yes. This is the second place. Actually, the dugong you have also here in Bahrain. Not the same number. So here we are still in Egypt. We are much more close to Marsalam area. on the coastline, where we will find the dugong that is calling also sikao, that is different than the manatees. Dugong and manatees are the only two living mammal species that belong the Sirenian animal order. Normally, the manatees inhabit shallow water near the Atlantic Ocean, while the dugong reside near to Pacific and Indian Ocean coastline, of course, and in the Red Sea. And they prefer, of course, the shallow water and sandy bottom, because like all the mammals, they need to breathe, and they can hold their breath just for 2 minutes, from 2 minutes until 4 minutes. Sometimes even more, but this happens normally when they are in the sleeping mode, and then you will see in the video as well. The life of the dugong is around an average of 50 years. Somebody say that they know some dugong that they are actually 73 years, but I don't know really who knows this. But they say the average is 50 years. As you say, and you see from the video, the dugong are herbivorous. So they spend their entire life eating, eat, and sleep. So this is the normal life for the dugong. And of course, usually they are living in the place where they can find abundance of seagrass. That is the main food for him. Thinking that he is eating actually from 20 to 30 kilos of seagrass daily. So he needs to find a good place, of course, with a lot of seagrass to live. They can grow at around 3 meters, and they can reach the weight up to 400 kilos. So it's a quite huge animal. The female dugong usually gives birth a few times during her life. So just, let's say, 2 small dugong for her entire life. However, they are under threat and becoming extinct because of course the human destruction of the feeding place and the nursing ground, and the dugong is always exposed to many parts of the range of overfishing, being taken advance, of course, also for its meat, oil, and the fat as well. Consider that actually in China is considered extinct. Fortunately, they don't have no known predators, so you can sometimes fall vulnerable to fishing net and boats. In 1980s, the Red Sea dugong population was estimated in about 2,000–3,000. However, now the estimated amount is unknown. Actually, what I can tell you in the area where I'm living, that we have like from 7 to 9 known dugongs that are residing along a 300-kilometer coastline between Safaga and Berenice. So actually, it's a very small number. It's very peaceful animal. You can see also here in the picture. That was the time they was sleeping. In our expedition, we went in an area that I know very well. Sometimes we found very easy, just 5 minutes, and then we spotted by boat. And for some time we searched for an hour and a half, because actually it's only one. So in that area it's only one, so it was not easy to find.
In a very big bay, one in a very big bay.
Yeah, and a very big, yes. She's, I say she because we know exactly that she's a female. Not, she's very used to be with divers and snorkeling. Also, sometimes is surrounded by dozens of people, and the situation is a bit sad because they have a snorkel on the surface and they have a diver in the water. So sometimes even she doesn't have a lot of space also to come back in the surface to breathe. So this situation, of course, is a bit sad. But because we realize as well that the only way to try to protect this animal will be just to reduce the number of the diver in the area. But because it's not really protected area or national park, of course, this will be very difficult also to manage. Actually, in the last picture that you saw in the movie, we catch an amazing moment. That was actually the first day where the dugong was playing with the wheel.
That was incredible.
Actually, it was the first day that we did in this place, and I was not supposed to bring the camera. The biggest mistake of my life, of course, because always when you are not taking the camera with you, everything happens underwater. That was the case. True. And I never saw actually the dugong playing this way with the wheel, but I think Hussain can explain better this moment.
It was truly amazing. It was truly amazing. I'd seen it try and rub off the remoras when we saw the male. We saw a male in 2017 that we spent several times with, who was rubbing itself on the ground, but nothing like this. And we were alone. Most of the time we weren't alone with dugong either in 2017 or this year. We were completely alone with her. There was a tire there. She played with it. She was totally fine with us coming close to her. She was amazing, and we captured. Well, I captured. I was very lucky. I had my camera on me. The most incredible thing in the world, basically.
Yeah, it was actually giving a big hug to the wheel, and then it was stretching and it was cleaning herself. Rubbing. It was. I never saw before this kind of behavior of the dugong in all this year. And of course, I doesn't have the camera, so this is.
It was really amazing.
100%, yes. Okay, so now we can move much more north, always in Egypt. Yes. And here we can find also the bottlenose. Bottlenose, they are quite bigger considering to the spinner dolphin. And there is an area that is called they call it as well dolphin house, but it's in different areas, so it's close to Hurghada, where we have a resident family of Indo-Pacific bottlenose. And the area is called Shab El Erg. There are around 30 dolphins. They study and they take the picture for each one, so they know that more or less this family is around 30 different dolphins. And that they are using as well this area like a resting area, like in the dolphin house with the spinner dolphin. We was very lucky because we spent just a couple of days there, or maybe 3 days. We was very lucky because suddenly one group was coming all together. There was 14 of them, and was a big number because normally you find like a small group of 7, 5 or 6. And that time, what day was 14 coming just close to us. You can see it in the picture. And was incredible experience as well because I repeat, it's not easy like in Sataya with the spinner dolphin. That area, I mean, even for the number of the dolphin, because it's quite few dolphins, so it's not guaranteed. Let's say from Sataya is much more guaranteed because it's very rare the day that you have not any kind of encounter. But in this area, you have really to be lucky. And just because we spend 2-3 days, we get really a nice encounter.
Yeah, 14 dolphins.
14 dolphins at the same time, yes.
We'd had only 4, I think, 2 years before. We saw
yeah.
14
and we was in the morning, so there was not really, because there was in how you call it, the sleeping mode. When they are in the sleeping mode, they are just sleeping all together. They are not really interacting. So there was not really playful. Because normally from the middle of the day and the afternoon, they start to play and then come close. And actually, the bottlenose, they are much more interactive than the spinner dolphin. Yeah. They are like to play much more, and then they follow you, and you can even with them spend an hour or so, if they are in the good mood, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now let's talk about the serious stuff.
Now we're in Elphinstone Reef, which is magic, replete with a multitude of corals, hard and soft, with wrasses, moray eels, cornet fish, and wonderful turtles. It is really the kingdom of the oceanic white-tipped shark. Catharinus longimanus is beautiful, large, powerful, and bold. Its species name signifies long hands, since its pectoral fins are so big. An open ocean predator, it can reach 3 meters in length. One of the most elegant creatures imaginable. When they come close to you, the tension is palpable. Whilst there has been a 71% decline in oceanic sharks and rays since 1970, and a third of all species are already endangered. Oceanic whitetips have done particularly badly, their large fins making them a priority species for finning. Once one of the most common large animals on the planet, and with a circumglobal distribution, their numbers are down to somewhere between 1% and 3% of what they were just a few decades ago. I visit them every year at Cat Island in the Bahamas, where their population is stable. The sharks are only easily found there around April and May, and in the Bahamas we chum the water with fish to bring the oceanics close, but not in Egypt. The oceanics at Elphinstone in Egypt are magnificent. They're there every time we go. Simo's footage of them is fantastic, as you can see, and living in Egypt he sees them much more often than I do. We don't always see many sharks at Elphinstone, but the best day I ever experienced, we had 5 sharks there, and at least 2 were omnipresent and very active. One of them kept moving in and out of groups of divers, making bold approaches and allowing for wonderful footage. My best shark image used on the poster for the museum in Lisbon 3 years ago is of that animal on that day, the animal you see here. Stunning, stunning creature. Regarding sharks, there are a few things I always try to tell people. One is that they are incredibly diverse. We may only see perhaps 15 or so species in the media, from great whites to hammerheads, bulls, nurses, reef sharks, and so on. But there are over 500 species of sharks in the world. In fact, there are 1071 known species if you include their cousins, the rays. Also cartilaginous fishes, because as you know, sharks are made of cartilage, not bone. Sharks have been around for 400 million years. Much longer than whales and dolphins, which are perhaps 50 million years old. And sharks have hardly changed over time, so well designed and efficient are they. The other piece about sharks I consider essential information for everyone is that only 6 to 8 people die from shark attack around the world each year. And yet we are killing between 80 and 273 million sharks a year. The generally agreed figure is we kill 100 million. We kill more sharks in an hour, perhaps 11,000, than they kill people, at most a dozen in a year. This is Simo's incredible footage of an entire cloud of pilotfish around a shark. Tell us about this a bit, Simo. It's amazing. I've never seen this before.
And this diving was incredible, crazy, and was not expecting, of course, to find also this kind of shark, because normally you can find the fish around the shape of the shark. They are called pilotfish. So normally you can find like 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, maybe 20. But in the time was completely covered. I don't know, I didn't count how many it was, but I think 100 or more. And actually, as you see in the movie, there was completely covered the sharks. And so you see like a bowl of fish with the tail of sharks. It was funny because we found at the end of the dive, so normally this dive you make completely in the blue, because this kind of shark, they are used to come close to the surface, because they are very curious, so they are attracting for everything is on the surface. So normally we spend, when we make this kind of dive, we spend the time in the blue, so in a completely open ocean, and we stay like shallow water, so from 5 to 10 meters. And normally they are coming because they are very curious, so they are coming close. But we was not expecting, because yes, let's say that in 20 years that I'm living in Egypt, I found this situation 3 times. And the first 2 times I didn't have the chance to get a really nice shot like this one. So I was not expecting. It was at the end of the dive. There was like 4 sharks in that dive all around. So I was concentrating the other 2. And then suddenly I just turned on the left side and found that this ball, I cannot to say what I was screaming in the regulator, but I know that it was having a magical moment because they will not happen often, this kind of situation. So the reason why the pilot fish decided to choose one shark than the other, we don't really understand. So the pilot fish, they are living in symbiosis with the shark. So they are taking advance of the food, the rest of the food that the shark has. So they just take the food, the rest of the food from the shark as well. And at the same time, they are used to clean the skin of the shark as well. But actually, a lot of like this, I don't know how they decided to move from one shark to the other, and how the shark as well. I think they accept to get a lot of number, because I think it's difficult for him as well to see what is around him. But anyway, it was incredible moment.
Surely. So these are blue sharks in Cabo right after our Socorro expedition. They're gorgeous, streamlined, hydrodynamic, dainty yet strong. Extremely prolific compared to many species of sharks, blues are quite common around the world. I once overheard that if we were only finning species like blues, shark populations wouldn't be doing so badly. But of course, for one, every time a species like the oceanic whitetip becomes depleted, then other more prolific species like blues are targeted and caught, and in turn become depleted themselves. Of course, what human would like to have its legs cut off after being held underwater without a breath for minutes, then be thrown back on land unable to walk or breathe and left to die? Because that's what happens when you fin a shark. When you cut off its fins, which it swims with and uses to pass oxygen over its gills, and leave it to sink at the bottom, unable to breathe or move, and die. The water was super cold that day, but we were happy to have another Italian guide, a little bit crazier than Simo, and we had anywhere between 2 and 5 sharks that whole dive. They're stunning. I'd never seen them before. Very, very curious. They came very close. They were absolutely stunning. And one of the possible sharks we could have seen would have been makos, but we didn't see them. We could have potentially have seen smooth hammerheads. We didn't see them, but we had blues for the whole afternoon. It was really just very impressive and fun. And Simone, incredible footage of them.
Yeah, and I was actually very happy that we saw just the blue shark, because in that area normally you can see also the mako and the smooth hammerhead. But actually in this condition, I was super happy that we found just the blue shark, because, okay, the cold water, but for me the most annoying thing was the visibility.
Yeah.
Actually it was terrible, very low visibility. And actually, I like to see what I have around me. When you have a bad visibility, of course, you will see just a few meters around you. And in that dive, of course, we have like, and yeah, it was 3 or 4 of them.
We had 5 in the end.
5 in the end, so I missed the last one, hopefully. So there was 5 of them, and they was turning around. So anyway, you are concentrating, especially when they are taking picture and video, you are concentrating in one. And I remember one time that I was taking the shot of 1 or 2 in front of me, and then suddenly I saw with my eyes the guy that was swimming close to me, and I didn't understand the reason. Yeah, actually, they was removing the 3rd one from my back because they are coming very close. So and for me, it was also strange actually the way how they organize the dive, because. For example, in Egypt, when you organize diving with the shark, you are actually diving, not snorkeling. And then we are not feeding as well the shark, I mean, to get them to come close to us. So for me, it was actually a strange situation in the beginning, because in Egypt, first, it's not allowed. And secondly, if you do something like this, better not to dive, because then the shark will for sure become much more nervous, so much more excited. This is funny because sometimes the same shark or different kind, anyway, the behavior of the sharks is different in the different country. So when I asked to the guy the reason why he was making snorkeling and not diving, they said, no, here is normal. They are used to have the snorkeling during the dive, so for there was common, like it was not for me actually, because in the beginning I said, are you sure that you have to dive? I mean, you have to snorkeling in this situation. Yeah, don't worry. But something happened before. No, nothing happened since 10 years. So say, okay,
it's definitely
a good time, good range.
Different in different places, and I remember they told us that in Mexico the makos scare away the blues, and in Portugal it's the blues that scare away the makos, and it's very hard to photograph. Well, for me, I'm a very bad free diver. I have the lungs of a hamster, so it's very hard to be photographing things from the surface and just snorkeling. But almost everywhere you can dive with sharks, but here we could only snorkel. The water was really cold, the visibility was terrible. But the sharks were amazing.
Yeah, the shark was amazing. The interaction you see from the video was amazing. Mantas.
Mexican mantas. Mantas are magical, charismatic, curious, playful, watchful, amusing. They're endlessly graceful and elegant, highly intelligent creatures. They come in two species, reef mantas, which grow to a wingspan of approximately 4.5 meters, and oceanic mantas, which can grow to 7 meters across. Yes, 7 meters, although most don't grow past 5.5. And like the other biggest fish in the sea, whale sharks, which they often share meals with, and basking sharks, mantas live entirely on a plankton diet. They're legendary among divers for their presence, poise, and grace, including for their backward somersaults people often refer to as barrel rolls. Mantas are the most intelligent fish in the sea. They have the largest brain of any fish. In the Revillagigedo Islands in Mexico, Socorro, San Benedicto, Clarion, and Roca Partida, they're famous for several things. They're very curious and playful, often seen hovering over divers to get their bellies tickled by the bubbles. They often approach divers and sometimes return even repeatedly to check them out. This is why the guides always tell us not to swim after them, but rather to wait for them to come to us. The main site for mantas in the Revillas is called the Boiler, and it's a huge layered mount that rises nearly entirely to the surface. Mantas in Socorro and its sister islands are unique in that they are cleaned, as you can see in Simo's wonderful footage, by the supremely beautiful and ultra-colorful clarion angelfish, an endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. The clarion angels in this chain of islands remove parasites and dead skin from the mantas, as barberfish do mantas and sharks in the Galapagos and Ecuadorian coast. A form of symbiosis, it's a food for cleaning and massage experience here. Clarion angels, like other angelfish, go through 3 color phases in life: juvenile, intermediate, and adult, and every phase with a different form and color, everyone equally as beautiful. I never caught one, but clarion angelfish were the most expensive saltwater fish in Europe when I was a child, precisely because their habitat is so small and access to them is so difficult. The mantas and the rabias were just absolutely unbelievable, weren't they?
Yeah, for me it was the clarion fish, that they are incredible. The color as well, but even for me the contrast between the black of the mantas and the orange, yellow-orange of the fish was incredible.
Amazing.
Actually, I was dreaming this shot because normally when we are going the expedition, I'm studying a little bit before, so I try to understand some more about the location, about the animal and the fish that we are going to film. And actually, I was watching another movie from a friend that was going the same place, and they was taking this amazing shot of the clarion fish on the top of the mountain. So I was dreaming to get the same shot. Of course, we never know, because we saw just 2 days the manta.
We were supposed to see
in 9 days. We were supposed to see much more. Yeah. So we actually had just one dive to get this shot. So I was super happy in the end that I get the shot that I was thinking to do it. And it's crazy because in the cleaning station, that is the area where the manta normally are just flying and stop. And then you see all the fish, these clarion fish that are coming from the reef, just fall in the manta, and then they cover completely the manta, and then they start to cleaning. So it's very, and 7 meters, so we are not talking about a small manta, we are talking about 7 meters of manta. So let's say this table, more or less.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, yeah.
Just about, yeah. Give or take. Amazing. So these bottlenose in Socorro, same trip, so before the blue sharks, they were just amazing. They came down to 30 meters with us to spend time with us. It was very, very deep for what you would usually see a dolphin at. On several dives, we saw them more than once, and sometimes much closer to the surface. But on this more interesting dive, we had them 30 meters down for maybe 20 minutes. The depth was a little surprising to me because usually dolphins don't stay underwater for more than 4 to 5 minutes at a time. They were extremely curious, observant, and playful, full of scars and with very snub noses, even for bottlenose dolphins. Different populations, animals coming from different regions, frequently have different appearances for one reason or another. But these guys had really snubby noses. One of these cetaceans, as you'll see from the images, came right up to me and checked me out from less than 2 meters away. Unfortunately, his eye is blurry in my pictures. And the image we end with here is a heart of jacks with a duo of dolphins playing around it. A spectacular moment. My friends had the dolphins behind me while I was shooting fish, but then they miraculously appeared in my frame and started playing with the jacks. Not hunting, but playing with them. A remarkable moment and an amazing privilege indeed. So here are the ones we had down very, very deep. Simo got much better footage than me, as usual. Congratulations, Simo. Just incredible
it's not
animals.
True, by the way.
Look at that.
It's just lucky.
Look at that. Amazing animals.
I love it, the bottlenose, because they are coming and they are playful, as we said before. They are, if they are in the mold, they are much more playful than the spinner. And the way they are look at you like a human. They are literally look at you, following you, and then go. And then they come back. Yeah, that you get it, me not.
Yeah. Huh? Sorry, just to say that was the heart of jacks with the dolphins coming and playing around them. I didn't mean to interrupt. Amazing. Aha, the dogs or puppies of the sea.
Your friend.
It was even colder here than in Cabo. This is Los Islotes off La Paz. It was freezing. We were told that in the summer, in July or August, it's actually quite warm, but we were there in, what was it, late February, early March?
Yeah, February.
It was so cold. So cold.
Especially with the 5 millimeters.
It was terrible. Yeah, we should, even with 7, it would have been cold, I think. Sea lions will do anything with you. They'll nibble at your gear, they'll sit on your shoulders, bite your flippers, push you around, kiss your mask. All this with nothing but joy and love in their hearts. They're all about joy and play, sea lions. Absolutely unbelievable. Look at that. Simo caught this video. This was what, 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago?
Yes, 2 years ago. Yeah.
2.5 years ago. One of the most amazing experiences ever.
Yeah, they spend. We spent the entire dive just to try to get less bite from them, because actually they
nibbled on him a lot. They did nibble you quite a bit.
They are making, the small dog like the puppy. They are coming and then they are bite you. True. But of course they are a bit bigger than the puppy, so they are not make pain actually. I mean, but sometimes they come into you and they bite the arm, they bite the last one they was biting the head. They say, come on. And at the same time, I was trying to get the right shot, because I am using also the light underwater. And the funny thing was, I was trying to be as much as stable as I can. And then suddenly I was moving. I say, but I'm not moving. And then I realized there was one of them that was playing with my light, or tried to bite my light. So, and then at the end, when I checked my video, all the video was moving like this. I say, it's not me, sorry. This was for the scenario. You're really playful. So it's actually a dog. Exactly the same behavior of the dog, but underwater.
Yeah. Dogs of the sea.
This is the male. Huh?
Oh. Yes. My favorite photograph from 4 years ago, actually, it's 2018. I think of him as the old man in the sea. That's an adult male. You can tell because he has a very big forehead. The adult males, when they develop very big foreheads over time. And that was one of only a few good images I got in a whole week of sea lions, because they're very, very fast and you can't predict their movements very easily. Oftentimes you'll focus the camera and it moves to a completely different direction and place, and by the time you've shot, your photo is blurry. And this was actually a very nice surprise at the end of a trip that was very difficult for photography, so that was lovely.
And they are much more bigger than female, so...
The males are much bigger than the females, yes.
So when they're coming close to you, you are a little bit intimidated, because they say, okay, you are bigger than me, actually.
And they're actually they're defensive of their females and their children,
and then
too.
Yes,
they control their territory, and they occasionally threaten people. They never really attack people. First they blow bubbles, and then they mimic a bite before doing anything. But then if you're still there after they've mimicked a bite and blown bubbles at you,
it was making a lot of noise. You remember the noise that it was doing underwater? It was coming like, oh, I say, okay, maybe.
That was really good. Try that again. How did it sound? Yeah.
No, that was actually doing the same. I mean, it was not. It's actually how he was doing underwater.
That's my other favorite image I've taken recently of sea lions, and I've given it the very dignified name of moving mummy hug. as a little baby playing on his mother's back. I love that photo. Beautiful. And end of trip surprise. This was after the whole excursion we had at.
It was coming back in the marina.
So funny. Incredible.
Yeah, this is the same male, okay. So the same big male. And we was just entering the marina.
Dobbiamo continuare adesso.
Continuiamo?
Sì.
In che senso?
Penso che dobbiamo fare
domande. So he was just coming back in the marina, and so as you see, he was just coming straight out the boat. And because in the box in front of him we have the fish that he was using to use, one with the sharks. So there was like a dead fish or anyway. So he was looking for the fish inside the boat. And as soon, then the other friend he was coming as well. And it didn't left as soon as we finish all the box of fish. He stay on the boat and we say, no, go away. No. He stay until the last fish was finished inside the box. Super funny.
It's amazing. Super hungry. Stuffing its face. Incredible sea lion.
He's quite famous actually because they give him a name. What was the name? I don't remember.
I think I gave it a name. I don't know if it already had a name, but there must be.
But he has actually. Because he's quite famous, because he's used to do this kind of stuff with all the boats that they are coming. If you go to YouTube, you can see. Just written Sea Lion, Cabo San Lucas, you will see a lot of movie of him. Like Hollywood, there's Hollywood Sea Lion.
It's really incredible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's grandness, there's glory, there's splendid beauty, there's your friendship, your communication, and the way you spoke about the things you've seen. I want to immediately ask you, how did your friendship start? How did the story of the sea connect both of you together?
So I was invited on a trip that Simo was guiding in 2014 with DJ Numero, who did videography for Cousteau, who's a very, very brilliant videographer and nice guy. And we did, I guess, maybe 2 or 3 days of dolphins and satire during the week there. We did mostly diving. And I really loved the dolphins and satire and asked Simo if I could do more than 2 or 3 days if I came back. And he said yes. And so went back in 2015 with some friends who have been going back ever since.
And then he never stopped to come to Egypt.
Yeah.
Since
he keeps saying, no, it's bad. This year's bad. Don't come. It's bad this year.
Simone,
but he keeps trying to go back.
Because leads me to asking you, you moved to Egypt.
Yeah.
And you've been living there for how many years?
I'm now actually living since 20 years in Egypt. So
how did that story from Italy to Egypt?
But actually it was, it was a challenge. I was working in Italy, of course. I was working my company, family company. So there's like a food trade company. So I was working with them since the age 22, 23, and then I recognized that was not actually my place. Actually I'm living in the north of Italy, so we have not the sea or the ocean close to us. During this time I started to make all the diving courses there, but of course in the lake, because the most closer water close to my head was the lake. So consider very cold water, visibility very bad, nothing to see. Yeah. So anyway, I did all the diving course until becoming instructor. And then what changed for me, my life, was that at the end of the course, that was 7 of our friends, we decided, okay, let's go to the Red Sea. And let's take us give a gift. So end of the course, let's go to the Red Sea. And actually, after the 1 week that we spent there, of course, not with warm water, a lot of color, a lot of fish, something that I never saw before. Yeah. And the end of the week, I look at my friend. I say, guys, sorry, but this is my place.
This is your home now.
So it's my new home. Yeah. And in the beginning, they say, no, are you crazy? Are you moving? Because we are working with the family and blah blah blah. So they say, no, how can you leave my family and everything? And I say, guys, I have to follow my dream.
You followed your passion.
Yes. My parents was not really happy in the beginning, so because they didn't accept my choice. Actually, it took like quite few years for them to realize
accept. But we are the lucky receivers because we get to see all the beautiful things that you capture. And just reading your biographies, I'm going to go into the movies you produced before and have a closer look at them. But since I met Prince Hussain, I also was introduced to your foundation, Focus on Nature.
Right.
And I follow you on Instagram, and I'm always amazed by the beautiful photos that you post. I'm an artist myself, so
you're an amazing artist.
What captures me is the blue, the yellow, the you know, the dynamics of the color under sea. But tell us about FON.
So it's basically a collection of very, very good advisors and friends, and it's more a fund than anything much else. It's not a foundation. Everyone thinks it's a foundation because it gives money away, but it's actually a Swiss association which allows people to take money and give money like a foundation does in many ways. Legally, it's quite similar as a structure. And because I always think that, you know, what I do is raising awareness and spreading awareness and doing some sort of public education, but I don't have any boots on the ground. I don't do any conservation work myself, and I always think that, therefore, it's probably important to help others who do conservation work on the ground. And I think that I try and find very good organizations to finance, to work on the species and ecosystems that interest me the most, which tend to be, I mean, it's a little bit subjective, not objective, a choice of species and ecosystems, but it tends to be cetaceans, sharks. I also do elephants and rhinos, Kerebetsus are very young, and rainforest, mantas, which I've been helping finance and been interested in since I was very, very young.
Yes.
So it's basically, it's more a fun than anything much else, and a collection of some very, very good, capable people who help me do it.
But raising awareness is such an important factor of the work you do. But I have a question. We see global warming happening, safeguarding of nature is an area that we all need to be aware about. And then on the other hand, we see international organizations, conferences that happen, for instance, the COP conference that just happened in Egypt. And it happens every year and everyone comes together. I just want to ask you a personal question. As a photographer, as people who, you know, with an artistic twist to a very serious and important topic, did you ever feel like you wanted to partner with any of these organizations or conferences to add a human element to all the rules, the regulations, the conference mood? Is there, you know, because adding art and adding the human element and adding the beauty of what you capture under the sea can raise a really important point. Have you ever thought of that?
I've met a whole number of people at events, and I've followed events quite closely in some cases, but mainly been very lucky to be invited to show it at some places here and there, and I've partnered with a few organizations in some small ways once or twice, but I don't have that many partners so much as people that I follow or donate to and trust, some more than others, and really in many ways admire for doing work that I can't or don't.
Who's a person that you look up to, like a mentor in this journey?
Jane Goodall and Sylvia Earle would be very top.
Can you tell us a little bit about them?
They're both absolutely brilliant ladies who've been working on this stuff for 60, 70 years and are at the very top of their game. Know everything there is to know about everything. I mean, when I talk to them, I feel like an idiot. Literally, they've been doing things for 70 years. They're geniuses, and they could teach anyone anything about the world, about environments, about species, about everything, basically. And I grew up, you know, following David Attenborough and Jacques Cousteau. They were sort of my idols when I was young, and I still think about them all the time. And
what about you, Simone? Any special people that you would...
Jacques Cousteau for sure was the first one, because like diver in the beginning, you study Jacques Cousteau, then you start to make diving. So is who teach us how to go underwater. So and before become a photographer and videographer, we become diver first. So.
Did you dive in Bahrain yet?
Not yet. We know that...
Are you planning?
Yeah, we are planning, yes, because we know that there is this big aggregation of dugongs.
Floaty potatoes is what we call them officially.
I really enjoyed that nickname you gave the dugongs.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Great. No,
No, I mean, in Egypt I saw just one or two, divided in 7 different areas. I cannot imagine to find, we are talking about
600, I think.
100 or 1,000 as well, so it's something that is not...
I hope the next invitation at the center is showing something captured from the Bahrain
That would be amazing,
or
yes.
from our area. That would be really amazing. I also want to hear from the audience if anyone has any questions. Please feel free to raise your hand.
We're thinking about coming in the end
Any
of July.
questions? Okay,
actually,
Najwa at the back.
to see the dugongs. In July, we're thinking about coming for dugongs.
Okay.
So apparently they're between Qatar and here, but
Yes.
people don't track them very much, or they're quite hard to track, and so finding them, stumbling on them might be fairly difficult, but we're definitely hoping to try.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's wonderful. I look forward to hearing about it. Najwa?
Just good evening and welcome to Bahrain. Thank you for such wonderful trip. You took us, underwater to capture such beauty. First of all, on which basis you went actually to those seas to capture such a beauty? And any other plan, as Sheikha Hala mentioned, because we have nice places as well to be explored. Thank you very much.
I'd love to come back. I don't know much about Bahrain. We do know a little bit about the dugongs, but we need to find out some more. And I'd love to see more as well. The most you've ever seen is 2 or 3, no? I've only ever seen one.
I mean, 2 or 3, not even the same time.
Right.
I actually saw one time the mother and the calf that actually was very rare encounter. But to find in Egypt, to find the two together is almost impossible. And I believe...
But I'm sure you'll find a lot of surprises because in Bahrain we have...
When they was talking the first time about 100, they took 1,000, but for me it's enough 50. I don't looking for 100 or 1,000, but to add the possibility to have this kind of conduct all together is something unbelievable. So we hope that we can get the chance.
So too. Any more questions?
I mean, just 2 would double my count. I've only ever seen 1, so seeing 2 dugongs would already be double what I've seen.
Okay, so you're in for a surprise then. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to come back and see more.
My name's Anya.
Hey, how are you?
I'm recently very interested in marine biology.
Fantastic.
So looking at these photos of your guys's just makes me want to dive in at this moment. So I want to know, have you visited any places with corals?
The corals, absolutely. My favorite place in the world, probably at least for corals, would be Indonesia. And in the Coral Triangle, which is the best coral in the whole world. And I'd like to go back. I'm going back, in fact, in January, and I'm going back again in March. Indonesia is absolutely stunning. It's the highest biodiversity in the world other than Papua New Guinea. I think Malaysia must be close behind Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. And just the most incredible number of species I've ever seen. The coral in Egypt is still quite good because I've been going to the Bahamas since 1989. And the coral is definitely on the way down in the Bahamas. I've seen dead and dying coral in dozens of countries in the last 20 years, but I think Indonesia, Red Sea is fantastic, Indonesia is amazing. Malaysia, I'd like to go back to at some point. Maldives, the coral was absolutely stunning for years, but my understanding is that it started to bleach now. And when my niece, who's a very avid scuba diver, went a few years ago, she said that it started to die in the Maldives. It's an absolute tragedy what's happening to coral right now. I read recently that 70 to 90% of what's left, and we only have half of what we had in the 50s, 70 to 90% of what's left will be gone in 20 years' time. It's a horror story. It's an absolute horror story.
Yeah.
And, climate change, it's coral, but it's also the food chain, it's all the rest. It's so many different things, and so many different places and species are getting devastated by climate change. It's unbelievable. But coral is one of the first. But we're talking about, coastal cities going underwater. We're talking about climate. We're talking about storms, superstorms. We're talking about drought. We're talking about flooding. We're talking about the most awful things in the world. And coral is just one very visible, very tangible aspect of it. And coral reefs are also actually a fifth of all marine species spend some or most of their lives on coral reefs and depend on coral reefs at some point, at some stage of their lives. So it's, I feel terrible about coral, and I want to see more and more of it and capture it while it's there and do everything I can to try and save it. Have you seen degradation in Egypt or not in coral over time?
Not really. I mean, actually, the coral reef in Egypt this year, they won like, let's say, an award like one of the best coral reefs in the world. So actually, yes, in some area maybe more than the other, but in general, let's say in Egypt the situation is quite good, except for the plastic. That is the pollution. I mean, that is the second problem. Because with the tourism, of course, is coming a lot of people. With a lot of people is coming also a lot of plastic and a lot of waste. So this, yes, is a big problem that we are facing in Egypt. We are trying. Because anyway, the only way to reach the goal is the education. So we are trying to teach, especially the local people, to use less plastic. It's incredible because I don't know here in your market, but in Egypt, as soon you will go to the supermarket, even to bring or in the pharmacy to bring medicine, they will give you a plastic bag.
Unfortunately, it's the same story here.
Yeah, I think it is almost.
There needs to be a proper policy.
And then even we was also with the association that I'm supporting as well in Egypt. We was giving the recycled paper bag to the supermarket and all to the shops. And you know the funny story? In the beginning was very happy, they was receiving, they was using, so we come back like 1 week or 2 weeks later on to check and was actually selling the paper bag like, well, they are selling in the supermarket the same. So it's difficult also for them to changing because the mentality is different. So is what we are trying. The education, of course, is the main point. As much people they know, as much people they can see. Also, this what we are doing underwater. Of course, maybe we are not sure, but at least we try.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
It will leave a mark. I'm sure. I'm positive. I saw somebody wanting to ask a question in the middle. Okay, please. Is there a? Please go ahead.
Thank you again for this beautiful pictures and movies and for transferring us into this beautiful environment. I have a technical question about what kind of equipment you use, what kind of cameras, what kind of conditions you have to set in the sea, and what kind of safety precautions you take.
Thank you, Hisham. Of course, he's a wonderful
divers.
No, he's a wonderful artist and photographer from Bahrain. He's a dear friend, and that's why
underwater as well.
That's why his technical.
Okay.
Nice.
That's why
you have to meet later on, so I can give you some advice.
Yeah, he's much more technological and technical than I am. He's a much better photographer than I am. I frame things nicely, I pick good moments, and I shoot a lot, and I get some nice images, but he's really the technology person to speak to more than me. I have Canon 5D Mark IVs. I used to have Canon 7D Mark IIs. I used to have CNC housings. I now have Nauticam housings. And I have Enon flashes, and that's what I've been using. I've been using Enon flashes for years. I have to buy new gear all the time because gear breaks down, so you can fix some of it, but sometimes it's just easier to buy new things because sometimes fixing costs 2 or 3 times what it does to buy new. But I take advice from my friend Trevor, who worked at National Geographic, and from Simone as to what equipment to buy, because I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to equipment. I'm not very strong with technology at all. In terms of safety precautions for gear, not that much. I mean, animals bump into gear and break gear now and again, but safety precautions for ourselves, we always have someone else in the water when we go diving. We never ever dive alone. We never dive alone because stupid things can happen that can be a risk if you're diving alone. So you always dive with a buddy. How about you? What kind of gear do you have?
Of course, the Panasonic. There's a Panasonic GH5 Mark II. That is one of the last camera from the Panasonic. Actually, the setting for the video is completely different than the setting of the picture because, of course, we are doing 2 different things. I have the light, he has the flash. I need to take care much more for the white balance, and then he can do it later on in the post-production. So actually, the setting is a bit different. Yeah, you need experience, you need to practice, you need to make a lot of try first. Every camera is different than the other, so I'm using Panasonic. If you are using Sony, if you are using different kind of camera, of course, you have to find your own setting. You have to feel comfortable underwater, and then, okay, you start to get nice result. You need time. This one, yes, I can say you need time. But of course, you never, I mean, you have to start to do it. Actually, I make the opposite of all the other videographer and photographer, because I was starting to shooting first underwater, and then I start to shoot in the land, on land. So I actually did the opposite. Yes. So this one I think it helped me, because it's quite bit difficult to take the shot underwater. So yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Shuman.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, 20 years ago, of course, was completely different, yes. Yeah. Actually, it's happened in all the places when the tourist is coming, so that's the point. Yeah, what we are trying to do also in Egypt, especially because anyway I'm working in Egypt, we are trying to educate the people as well. Sometimes I'm jumping also on the touristic boat as well to try to teach them to how to behave with the animal, how to. But I repeat, it's not easy. Yeah, it's a very sensible point. Actually, when there is the business around the stuff, is very difficult to find exactly the right way to resolve the problem. I'm actually with you. If we can stop in 1 second, I will do it tomorrow. But I repeat this. I facing sometimes also problem to report sometimes what happened. So it's not easy also to find the balance. I'm foreign in Egypt, so actually they're supposed to give me much more voice. But what happened to me, for example, from the beginning, I was reporting there was fishing the shark in the Elphinstone Reef. Yes, and actually this is a protected area, it's a national park. And there was the fisherman that was going there just to catch the sharks. So what I did was there in that time, I was taking a shot, I was taking a video, and then I was reporting to the Mukhabarat, to the Coast Guard. And actually what they did, in the beginning they say, thank you. And then the day after, when I was ready to go in the sea again, they say me, no, you cannot go in the sea. And they say, I ask, what's the reason? There is no reason, but you cannot to go in the sea for the next 2 weeks. And they say, okay, but can you explain to me the reason? Actually, the reason was because I was doing the report.
Yeah.
Because you were?
I was doing the report for the fishermen. They punish me, the standard of police. So it's very complicated to find the right way also to get the things running, especially. Yeah, that's the point. Absolutely. That's the point. Let's say, okay, I can say something. In the last few years, they started to take in more care than in the past. So that one I can see, because I see with my eyes. So
the people would be.
oh, now it's better.
You see what I mean? There has to be somebody who starts the movement. Among the
We are
people,
trying to do our best.
That's a very
Thank-
that's a very harmonious scene that you have described. Thank you very much. Any other questions? I have time for one more. One more from the little girl.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Ayat, and I just wanted to ask if you were scared of the sharks when you were taking the photos.
I think that's a very clever question.
Very
Thank you.
good question. Do you want an honest answer or do you want to lie? Sometimes I get scared. Sometimes I get a bit scared, but you know that sharks hardly kill anyone every year. They have a very, very bad reputation, but they only kill 6 to 8 people around the whole world in a year. They only kill 6 to 8 people. We kill 100 million sharks every year. Every year for shark fin soup and drift nets and other nets that are dangerous for them, and climate change and so many things are killing sharks. But so, are they capable? Are they predators? Are they strong? Are they bold? Some of them are very bold. The oceanic white-tip sharks that we photograph and film are very, very bold. Could they, if they wanted to, hurt you? Definitely. But they don't so many times. I mean, 900 million times out of a bit more, they won't hurt you. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want to bite you. They would rather eat a fish. They would rather eat something else. And so we can, your heart starts to pump, you can get a bit nervous, but also the more time you spend with something or focusing on something, the better you become at it. So we can read their behavior better than most people probably. Sharks, when they get angry, they tend to bring the pectoral fins in, and they tend to arch their backs a bit. So if you did notice a shark with its back arched or its pectoral fins brought in a bit, you would know probably that it was more dangerous than another shark. It's always a bit scary, particularly if it's a bigger shark that comes to you. It's a bit scarier than a smaller shark, and definitely if they come fast, it's a bit scary. But generally speaking, we shouldn't be scared of sharks. They hardly ever hurt anyone. And we've done dozens of dives with blood in the water and dead fish in the water and sharks on it, and they don't want to bite us. They're not interested in us. They're interested in the fish or other things. So it's always a bit scary, but it's not. If you know the numbers and you're careful and you're really observing the sharks, there's really not much risk. It's a great question, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this evening. Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Prince Hussain. Showed us incredible wonders of the sea.
Thank you.
We work all together to raise awareness, protect our seas, and whatever we can do, we should be doing at our utmost strength. I think what you have shared with us today humbled me as a person, and I'm sure everyone feels that in the audience. Once again, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.
Shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.